first one, the one every single time I go to a client site, is how should I handle overhead? And what I mean by overhead is that your resources have sometimes 10%, sometimes 30% doing non-project work. Not necessarily sleeping like I'm there, but work like administrative work, run the business work, sustaining work. And the question is, when you're capturing this, when you're tracking this, how should you do it? And I find everything falls into three main choices. Number one, you could ignore it. And when I say ignore, I don't mean pretend it doesn't exist, but when you're tracking, when you're putting who's needed on project work, you could simply just count that in with your equation. So when you deal with forecasting, if you say, I need one person on the project, you really know that might be only 80% of their time, but you put one FTE on your project anyway. And same with capacity. You say, oh, there's 100 people in my organization, 10 people in my department. I have 10 people, even though you know only about 70 or 80 or 85% is going to be on project time. So you have, say, a 1 FTE for capacity, 1 FTE for your demand. And this way, if someone's working half-time on your project, you put in 0.5, half-time. You don't have to figure out, oh, it's really half of 80%, which is 0.4. So I would say this is the most simple approach. And so that's what I put as pros. The cons is if you're tracking actuals, usually people track actuals to vacation, to PTO, to any sort of meetings. So your forecast doesn't always match the actuals. So that's choice one, and that's sort of the trade-off there. Option two, you can create administrative projects. And then you could forecast to the project. So maybe you have either one bucket that you put everyone 20% on, or you might have 5 different choices, a PTO, a run the business project, sustaining project, and so forth. So this approach, you do have flexibility in your forecasting, so you can put how much, as I mentioned, on the different types of projects, and then when you track the actuals, you can get an accurate comparison of the forecast versus actuals. But the problem is you just added some more overhead for yourself for the PMO or for the resource managers who are tracking this, where now they have to do extra work in their forecast. So you created a little bit more overhead. And the third method is to lower capacity. So you forecast you forecast just the project work to what they're actually doing. You put someone 40% on a project instead of 50 because you know there's overhead, but you drop their capacity to 80%. And this way, if you scheduled someone up to 1 FTE, if you scheduled them to full-time, it would show that that person is overloaded. So those are, I see, the 3 most common choices. So I'm curious how you do it.